Welcome back to Integration TV. On our Let's Talk About It segment, we have a very important topic that many in our communities have been faced with in recent years. With an aging Canadian population, and more importantly, as for us Somalis being first and second generation now, having aging parents, how do we deal with end-of-life care? Well, there's a great new website that is sharing the spiritual journey of dealing with end of life. Livingmyculture.ca is a brand new website that shares diverse Canadian stories on how to deal with end of life planning.
My own personal experience happened in 1998. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer at age 46, and she was living in Somalia at the time. She came to Nairobi, Kenya, and she was offered to have the mastectomy. She refused because she didn't want to. And the cancer, when you say cancer in our community, is kind of taboo and disbelief, so she did not want to have mastectomy, but the cancer spread. She had chemo and radiation, and she finally died at age 48 in Somalia. She went back home. She wanted to die home, and she died 1998, May 26. She passed away from breast cancer. And her older sister passed away in 2008. Also same. She had mastectomy, but the cancer spread. It went to the bones, spinal, and she was in Saudi Arabia getting treatment, but treatment lasted for about a year and a half, and the cancer came back, and it metastasized to the lungs and everywhere, and she went back home and she died in Somalia. It's not easy when you lose someone you care, especially my mother at age 48. For me, it took me a while I thought I was gonna die cancer automatically, like in my mind. I said, this is like, you're gonna be next. Especially when I hit age 40, I started panicking. I said, oh, you may not last. But what I did is I spoke to my gyno and family physician. I registered Ontario high-risk screening program. I do yearly screening, and then the rest I leave the hands of God, you know. But I try to take advantage of all the available resource for me to prevent, to catch up early. Now we know breast cancer survival rating is very high.
Joining me now is Wendy Rowland, an award-winning documentary filmmaker who took on this project to share Canadian voices from the perspective of their own cultures. Wendy, welcome to Integration TV.
Thanks, Hoden. Thanks for having me.
So Wendy, what is livingmyculture.ca?
Livingmyculture.ca is a website that was produced by the Canadian Virtual Hospice and funded by Canadian Partnership Against Cancer. And it's a website featuring Canadians from Somalia, Ethiopia, India, Pakistan, Iran, 11 different cultures in 10 different languages, talking about end of life and talking about what happens when you're diagnosed with a terminal illness or when you have a loved one who is very ill or dying of cancer. Their personal experiences. We also feature healthcare providers, community leaders, and it's really sharing stories to help people who find themselves in this situation and are maybe new to Canada, new to our healthcare system, and learning from other people in their community. How to deal with end of life and difficult conversations.
Yeah, it's a very difficult conversation, and especially I think also for myself, being a Somali Canadian, I took part in this videos and sharing our story and in dealing with death. I think it's something new to us in this country. Parents that may have cancer or that are terminally ill, things that we're not necessarily prepared for back home, because back home people just kind of died. Nobody really knew what they died from. So why is it so difficult for people to talk about it in Canadian society?
Well, I think it's not even just Canadian society. It's, no matter where we're from, no matter what religion we are, what our spiritual background is, it's hard to talk about death and dying. It makes us sad. We don't want to imagine that people we love, are going to go through this, and we don't want to lose people in our lives. And yet, We all die, you know, and it's something that the more we can talk about it, it's important, you know, and it's important to be able to talk to our loved ones and find out what they want, to find out, you know, what kind of care they want at end of life. Do they want to be at home? Do they want to be at the hospital? What are things that they're afraid of? What do they want to share with their family members? And then also, you know, what happens when you end up in the hospital and maybe you don't speak English, maybe you're new to the country, maybe you don't have your community and family members around you. And these are the stories that are on the website, that are in the videos, that hopefully will help Somali Canadians, or you know, people from Ethiopia, Iran, you know, all the different countries that we've included, to, you know, help them through these difficult times.
Yeah, I really like the fact that you had all the diverse languages. I thought that was very authentic, because I think it's important people express themselves in their native language. But I also like the fact that we're able to talk in English now about these issues, because we have another generation that's going to be taking care of these parents that may not speak the native language anymore. So how do you find educating the new generation about this stuff?
Well, it's hard, right? Because, you know, I think first of all, in terms of language, yes, the videos are in English, but then they're also in everybody's, you know, mother tongue or home language, what they speak at home. So whether it's Farsi, Somali, Amharic, you know, we've tried to do the videos to make them as accessible as possible. And then for the younger generation, you know, often they can be sometimes more traditional even than their parents. So it's interesting, because some people think, oh, you know, my father wants to do this or my father wants to do that. Well, maybe you just have to have that conversation. Maybe you'll be surprised. And then there's also a pressure by by the second generation that, you know, you're supposed to stay at home. You're supposed to look after your parents. You're supposed to look after them at home. You're supposed to do everything. And there's help out there. You know, there's a lot of help at the hospital. There's social workers that will come to the home. And so it's this idea that, you know, you don't have to do it all yourself, because often there's you're working, you've got young children. So it's also just, you know, it's okay to ask for help. And I think that's one of the messages there, that it's okay to ask, you know, whether it's through social workers in the healthcare system or from your community.
Yeah, and I think many people don't know that there are services in the healthcare system that, especially for a lot of women who are the caretakers, you know, it's hard to take care of a dying parent and then also take care of your own family. And there's a lot of burnout in the community, but they don't know they have nurses that can come to the home to assist them. How do we educate more people about that they don't have to do this by themselves?
Well, I think, you know, my hope is that the videos will share this information. So livingmyculture.ca. There's also the Canadian Virtual Hospice that has lots of information on their website, virtualhospice.ca. And then just to ask when you're at the hospital, ask the doctors, ask the nurses, ask the social workers, just to say, I need help.
Great. Well, the great organization that put this together, the Canadian Virtual Hospice, is joining us live. Actually, Glenn Horst, who's part of the organization, who is a spiritual guide in the organization and kind of guides people through the spirituality of what it means to go through end of life, joins us from Winnipeg, Manitoba, to talk about why this is such an important project for the entire Canadian society, not just for every little culture, but all Canadians, to learn about each other and engage. Glenn, welcome to Integration.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Glenn, I was on the website earlier today and scrolling through some of the stories. Can you share with us, what does end-of-life preparedness look like?
The end of life, I think, challenges us in terms of figuring out, how do we bring closure to our lives? And in my experience, some of the things that are most important have to do with the people that we are closest to. And how do we say thank you to the people who have helped us be the people that we are? How do we say, would you forgive me for the things that I really regret that happened in our relationship? And sometimes when we ask for other people's forgiveness, it also means that they in turn will ask for our forgiveness. And so to clear up some of the things that have been blockages in our relationship that have led to estrangement and alienation and misunderstanding and disappointment and regret, to get those things cleared up. And then I think often when we're facing the end of life, there's an opportunity to have a new freedom in expressing our love for each other, in being more open. Many of us, and it depends again, this is very influenced by what cultural tradition we're part of, but many of us are very hesitant to openly express the love that we feel for the people that are closest to us. And as we face the end of life, sometimes there's an emotional freedom that begins to emerge out of that, where we can just say that much more clearly. And then to figure out ways of saying goodbye. And that sometimes means letting people know how we wish to be remembered. And so what we consider our legacy, and also hearing from them and what they experience from us that they appreciate and that they're going to remember us for.
Glenn, those are very good points to discuss about end-of-life care. Thank you so much for sharing your spiritual perspective and joining us from Manitoba. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you.
Wendy, as we wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want to add?
Well, I just want to say how important it is that people use the videos. It's one thing for us to make the videos and, to put them online. It's another to get them out into the community, out into the world. So, it's visit livingmyculture.ca. Have a look at the videos and then share them. If you know a family member, a friend, a colleague who's facing illness, or who has a loved one facing illness or end of life, tell them about the website, because there's so many videos there. There's so many voices to be heard, and I think they're really helpful. So, and then if you watch the videos, and once you've watched them, there's a survey, and we hope to make more videos. We hope to keep this going, keep these stories being told, from more Somalians, Ethiopians, and other cultures. We have such a diverse cultural community in Canada, and so we want to keep making them. And so to go to the survey and tell us, what you liked, what would you like more information on, and help us to be able to make more videos.
Yeah, I really love the project. I enjoy taking part in it because I think it's important that we all share diversity. And a lot of times, with a growing Muslim population in Canada, people don't consider that there's unique customs that come with this different cultures. So I really appreciate that fact that you guys have done this and took on this role.
Well,
so
thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's just there's so many voices that need to be heard, and that was our goal, is to get those stories out there.
Great, thank you so much. Wendy Rowland, award-winning director, joined us to discuss Canadian Virtual Hospice new website, livingmyculture.ca, on our Let's Talk About It segment. Don't forget to visit the website, look at the videos so that we can encourage more diverse storytelling in Canadian society, and take that survey.
Integration. Building a new cultural identity.